started, to be honest.
Thank you.
We'll pick one of these three since wherever you like.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah? Okay, great. Welcome. We're so happy to have you all here this afternoon. We're very excited to have our NASA panelists here with us today. My name is Ayola Gill. I am an academic and career exploration coach in the Career Center here at UT. And like I said, we're very happy to introduce our panelists today. I think they're kind of actually going to introduce themselves. I just wanted to say welcome. The topic of today's career conversation is exploring non-STEM careers with NASA. So I hope that it's productive and fruitful for you and that you take something away. So again, please help me welcome our NASA panelists. We have Jared, Chris, and Peyton. Welcome, guys. I'll pass it on to you, Jared.
Thank you, Iola. So first of all, I just want to get a survey real quick. Where are we at as far as first-year students? All right, second year, third, and fourth. All right, we got a good crowd. I like it. So my name is Jared, and we are super excited to be here from Florida at the Kennedy Space Center. What I'm going to do today is we're just going to give you a brief overview of the program that we work for, and then from there, we're going to introduce our stories, how we got to NASA, what our background is, and then let you guys ask questions. And so really, we want to be here to be a resource for you. So whatever questions you have, please do not shy away from asking those. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So that's exciting to us. Is that not exciting? Let me hear you guys have some energy. Let me hear it. Let's have hands together, something. All right. We got our launch director in the house. He's excited. So we work for NASA's Launch Services Program, and we kind of fly under the radar, which is kind of by design. But we do a lot of different things within NASA. So we support a lot of NASA's programs from the Commercial Crew Program. But our main focus, as you saw in that video, you saw lots of scientific, robotic missions. And so we are responsible for all of NASA's scientific and robotic missions. And so what we do is we take a government or NASA spacecraft and we match it with a commercial launch vehicle. So we're talking like companies like SpaceX, United Launch Alliance, Northrop Grumman, Blue Origin. And so our team is around for this process from the beginning when we begin to plan this mission from 4 to 10 years before the mission even launches, all the way through launch and getting the spacecraft to its destination. And so when you think of NASA, obviously, we've got some incredible engineers. We have some of them that are here with us who are going to be over at the College of Engineering. So if this is not, go ahead, give it up for them. They're the rock stars. I feel like I'm just their hype man. So, but they are incredible people. So if you had a chance, if you want, go to the College of Engineering, and they'll be telling their stories a little bit. But NASA's so much more than that. And the Launch Services Program is so much more than just engineers. We have people who work in the business office. We have people who do communications. We have people who do outreach. We have people who are focused on taking the program forward with programmatic studies, right? We have so many different things going on. And so that's what we are here for today, is to kind of tell you about what we do. So we're going to watch this video real quick, and it's going to give you a little bit better picture of all of the things that the Launch Services Program is a part of.
Since the dawn of humanity, we've looked to the stars and dreamed of bridging the gap between the Earth and the cosmos. In the 20th century, NASA turned that dream into a reality by launching humanity into a bold era of scientific discovery. As pioneers of space travel, our best and brightest designed and built everything from the ground up, from launch pads to rockets, all of which were government-owned and operated. As NASA's science and robotics evolved, we encouraged a competitive launch market to develop, ushering in a new way to explore and discover through commercial spaceflight. Spacecraft customers from around the world, all with the same desire, reached out to find an expert at NASA for support. Thus, NASA's Launch Services Program was born. Our mission is to centralize NASA's launch services and address state-of-the-art customer needs when placing their spacecraft in orbit around the Earth, the Sun, or destinations deeper into the solar system. The LSP family is made up of a diverse tapestry of government and contractor engineers, analysts, operation experts, and business advisors, all united by a common goal: to get your spacecraft off the ground on time, on budget, and successfully to its final destination, wherever that may be. We match scientific and robotic spacecraft with the appropriate rocket and certify rocket performance and reliability. We support full-service missions, advisory services, and one-of-a-kind contracts. The Launch Services Program is the common thread that bridges the spacecraft organization to the rocket designer, and the spacecraft to the rocket. We provide long-term technical leadership and expertise from pre-mission planning to system verification and validation, all the way through launch. Whatever the vision or requirements, our team will be there, guiding our customers every step of the way on their journey through space. We are the common thread that connects the science world to the physical world by putting the necessary instruments in place. The thread that weaves NASA's industry-leading knowledge and support into the fabric of the commercial space market. We unite customers, capabilities, and culture to explore space through unparalleled launch services. NASA's Launch Services Program. We are Earth's bridge to space.
So I love that video because I feel like it does a really good job of talking about all of the different facets of NASA's Launch Services Program. So, working for NASA, right? That's what a lot of people are probably here for. What does it look like to work for NASA? How would my major fit in with what NASA has to offer? So just before we jump into our stories, our paths, which for me, mine's pretty unconventional, I want to tell you a little bit about two of NASA's internships, but I'm going to focus really on one. So two of the NASA internships that you will hear a lot about, one is called Pathways, and then one is OSTEM, and that's a STEM internship. We will focus more on the Pathways internship. So looking at this, here we'll give you an idea of the differences between these. So with regards to the STEM engagement internships, these tend to be focused on the STEM fields, right? So this whole presentation is about non-STEM. So let's look over at the Pathways internships. So part of my story is I was a Pathways intern. And so what a Pathways internship looks like is you are applying essentially for a co-op, right? It used to actually be called a co-op. And when you start this internship, if you're accepted into the program, you will actually be a civil servant, right? So you come in as a civil servant, you are on the GS pay scale, you have NASA benefits, you are a part of the NASA team. And it's a really, really awesome program. But the way it works is you must be enrolled in some school, whether that's an undergrad program or maybe even a master's program. For me, it was a master's program, but you have to be in school. And so while you are in school, you are working. There may be some different combinations. You may go work for NASA, maybe at the Kennedy Space Center, for example. That's where we're based out of. So let's say you got a Pathways internship at the Kennedy Space Center. You would be able to go work in the summertime at the Kennedy Space Center in a particular role. And then if you still had school left over, you could come back to the University of Tennessee and work on your schooling for the fall and the spring semester, and then would have an automatic spot back to intern again in the summer at that center. You don't have to reapply. You are now still part of that program until you graduate with your degree. And once you graduate with your degree and you finish all the requirements for the Pathways program, you then will potentially have the opportunity to get converted. Now, it's not a guarantee, but it's a really good shot. And so for me, that was the path I took, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. And what's great about this is not only Can you be an undergrad? You could be in your master's program. You could be in a PhD program. But there's a lot of flexibility. And your supervisors at NASA, at least within the Launch Services Program, they're incredible. We have incredible leadership from the top down, and they really work with you. I've seen lots of people who have come in as Pathways interns. They would work a summer, go back to school for the fall, and then actually they're like, I want to take a semester off from school and I want to work in the spring. And so they came back and would work in the spring and then rotate that way. So there's a lot of flexibility in the program, and it's an incredible way to work for NASA. And I feel like, my personal opinion, is that it's one of the more direct paths of getting a job with NASA. There are other paths, and I'm just going to tell her story kind of briefly, and hopefully I get it right. But Kayla, who is one of our, works in common telemetry for us, she does computer science. She did a different route. She did the STEM route. And so she did an internship where it was just a summer, right, or just a one-time internship. So summer, fall, and spring. And then after that, you reached out and did some networking yourself and on social media through Twitter. And as a result of her connecting and linking with people who were in the Launch Services Program, excuse me, she then ended up getting to apply for a job because she reached out and connected and then interviewed and got offered a job and is now working as part of our team. So that's another way as well. But these are two of our different internships. Some of the focuses that you'll see that are non-technical related majors, you'll see a lot of business, but it's not limited to this, right? These are just some different things from business, administration, all the way to human resources, public relations, education, right? So I'm going to tell you my job here in just a second, but I fall under that one. So there's a lot of diversity. Don't feel like, oh, I can't do it because of my degree. No, there's a lot of freedom. And I would say that if you're applying and NASA is what you want to do and you don't feel like your degree program matches up, I would encourage you to apply. And I would encourage you to just sell yourself and who you are. What makes you special? Why would NASA want you to work for them? And spell that out for them in your resume. And you might be surprised by the end result because there's a lot of different jobs that you probably can do. All right, so who am I? I'll tell you my story. So my name is Jared Bales, and my job with NASA's Launch Services Program is I am an education and outreach specialist. So people say, what does that mean? Does that mean you get to travel around the country and talk to people about NASA? Yes, that's exactly what it means. It's a pretty cool job, and it's been a lot of fun. I have worked in this role for almost 2 years. Come May will be 2 years. So I got hired during the pandemic, during the telework, but even in the midst of that, it's been incredible. And so I'll start from the beginning. I was born and raised in Florida, and as a result of that, I went to, I'll keep it low key, but I went to the University of Florida. I am a Florida Gator. Please don't hold that against me. My basketball team just got knocked out of the SEC tournament because we stink. So I went to the University of Florida, and if you look at my major was Family, Youth, and Community Sciences. NASA, right? No, there's no connection whatsoever with that. But I did Family, Youth, and Community Sciences, and I minored in Business Administration. So from there, I actually was a high school teacher. So that middle picture, I coached football as well. And so I taught high school for about 9 years. And people say, oh, you must have been a science teacher or a math teacher. I taught social studies. And I taught a lot of economics. So again, you're like, how in the world did you end up with NASA? And so after teaching for about 9 years, there were some people who were encouraging me to look at other opportunities, particularly with NASA. And my first thought was, what in the world can I do with NASA? Like, I don't have a degree. I'm not an engineer. I've got a social science degree and a minor in business administration. And so from there, what I did is I looked at pathways. And I actually started a master's program in public administration. And from there, I applied for the particular education and outreach job that I now have and began working in that role, teleworking, and then I kind of was working part-time while teaching for one semester and going to school. And then shortly after that, I got converted to a full-time employee, and I'm no longer an intern, and now I'm working full-time for NASA. So that's my experience. And again, I was a pathways guy. That was the route that I went. And so that's my story, and I would like to pass it on now to Chris, who is one of my colleagues, and she will tell you a little bit about herself.
Thank you. Hello, good afternoon. My name is Chris Neiswanger, and I will say space has been with me my entire life. I was born in Utah, and my dad worked for the company that built the booster rockets on the shuttle. And so he probably took him like 20 years to get his bachelor's degree. It took him a really long time. But once he finally graduated, he was offered a position at KSC. So our family moved to Brevard County, and I've lived there for more my entire life. But I do like that connection that, space has been with me my whole life, even though we had no idea what my dad was doing because we were in Utah and we didn't know anything about the shuttle. I have a degree from UCF, from organizational communications. When I graduated, I did an internship there, but I wasn't thinking about working at Kennedy Space Center. And, I lived in Brevard County, like space was all around us. And like I said, that was a part of my family, but I wasn't really thinking about working at KSC. I did an internship with UCF Athletics, so I wasn't even thinking anything. After I graduated, I was just looking for jobs. I had some temporary jobs actually in Orlando for a while, and then I saw a position at KSC, and it was just a temporary position, and so and it was like a temporary agency, and I submitted my application, and they never even interviewed me. They're like, "Can you be at the ONC next week?" And I supported a payload. It was a Hubble payload from Goddard. And it kind of full circle of me working for LSP now, supporting different NASA satellites. So, I started that job and I'm thinking, oh my God, this better last more than 4 months. And 20 years later, like I haven't missed a day of work. I just got different positions, found other things, and I will say in 2011 is when I started with LSP. And I applied for a position, and like Jared said, and it's like I was overqualified for the position, but I knew LSP was a good place to work. I had friends that worked for LSP, and so I just applied. I was like, whatever. And I was interviewed, and our program manager, he was like, look, you're overqualified for this, but I need you to join our team. Just be patient with me, and I'll get you something, hold on. And I did, and I'm so thankful that I was hired on by LSP. I've worked at Kennedy Space Center, different projects, different programs, and it's all great. Like, it's a great place to work, but I'm very grateful for LSP and my team members. I will say also I've done a bunch of different things with LSP. When I first started, I was came in as a document specialist. I mean, I was just basically uploading documents to a database, and I thought, like, oh my gosh, like I was kind of stuck in a hole. Like I wasn't around a lot of people or doing stuff that let me like get to know the program. But then I also was we have like a meeting that's like a decision-making meeting, and I was the secretariat for that, and it was all high level. It was Tim. It was all of our management, and that was really great. I was so scared to do that, but that was like my introduction to everybody in management, and they got to know me, and so I always look at it as like, don't be afraid to do some jobs that you might think you're underqualified for or overqualified. Just go for it, and you never know where it will lead you. I also had a job as a launch site support coordinator that was helping like write requirement documents, doing things like that, but like really helped me learn about spacecraft processing and really gave me a good picture of what LSP is doing and understanding, and a lot of exposure. So I feel like it's been stepping stones for me, and I'm glad. I kind of had a different path, especially just how I got hired, but I just feel like all my jobs like made it to where I am now and made me a more well-rounded person, understood what was going on, exposure to all kinds of different facets of LSP, and just I feel like the biggest thing is made me very well-rounded in my exposure to LSP. So my other thing, just a little bit about me. Oh, also I do, along with Peyton, we do social media for LSP, and especially for Countdown to the Launch, which has been really kind of a fun thing that we've been involved into. And I love your story about you reaching out on Twitter, because I feel like non-conventional things like that are how things happen now. So I'm really glad to hear that. Like, that's how you got hired on. My other just like little tidbits about myself. Oh, I'll tell you that one picture. That's us on console, like before, I think it was for Landsat. But the other one is at Vandenberg Air Force Base, because we also launch out of Vandenberg. And that's the last Delta II. I sat too, and I got to go out to the pad. It was pretty awesome. And our launch director, Tim, he loves Delta IIs so much. So I'm glad you were here to see that picture. But anyway, it's my whole thing, what I want to share with you is just that the thing is, just go for it. Like Jared was saying, if you didn't see your major up there, don't think like you can't fit in, because you can't. You can. If people see what you have to offer, they will make it you fit in to whatever this little box is. So don't hesitate to put in your resume for whatever you feel like you want to get into. So I'm going to pass it to Peyton, and she can take it away.
Hi guys, I'm Peyton Wolf, and I am the marketing specialist for LSP, and I am still slightly confused on how I even ended up at NASA, but I'm here and I love it. My path, I feel like kind of everybody else's, is a bit unconventional. I knew exactly what I wanted to do since the age of 10. I was going to go to Hollywood, and I was going to edit and direct feature films. That's what I was going to do. And nobody was going to stand in my way. Nobody was going to stop me. I was going to get there. So in high school, I started doing theater, and I did a lot of student directing, stage management. Theater was my world. And when I wasn't doing theater, I got very heavily into video production. And I started making trailers for all the musicals and the shows. I got into like wedding videography. I started making music videos for local rappers in my town. Anything that I could do for video, that's what I was doing. And my parents hated it. They absolutely hated it. They were not supportive. My dad wanted me to be an engineer. He's like, you're good at math. He's an engineer. He's like, that's what you need to do. And I said, no way. This is what I'm doing. And they said, okay, that's fine. If you want to do that, you're going to pay for it. We're not giving you a dime for that. And so I said, okay. And I got a waitressing job. And I saved $10,000. And straight out of high school, I went to California. And I did a 3-month filmmaking program there. And I worked on 15 different short films while I was there, and I did everything from writing, directing, editing, I did lighting, I did makeup, I even acted in a couple, which I was not good at. And then I ran out of money and I came home and I went to my parents and I said, all right, I'm not going to college. I've decided I'm going back to California. And they were horrified. And about like a couple weeks before I was like planning to go to California and leave, my high school theater teacher reached out to me and she was like, hey, there's this video production internship on Patrick Air Force Base. It's a 10-week internship. I feel like you would love it. It sounds really great. And she's like, and I know the person who's like hiring the intern, so I'll like give you a good recommendation. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to go to California. But it was 10 weeks, and I figured California will still be there at the end of the 10 weeks, you know? It'll still be there. And what's one more thing to add to my resume? Like that's another boost for me to take with me. So I was like, sure. So I got the internship, and they were very, very clear. This does not lead to a job. When this 10 weeks is up, that's it. And I was like, okay, perfect, because I've got a flight to catch to California afterwards. So I did that, and it was so nice because I had grown up on the Space Coast of Florida. I was born and raised there. And when you're born and raised there, you can get quite desensitized to the space program quite easily. I didn't really care about it. And like the shuttle program shut down when I was in like middle school, I think. So my high school, it wasn't super heavy space going on. And I got this internship, and the space program just started to like ramp up again. And I was making training videos for space systems on Patrick Air Force Base. And I just fell in love with it. Like I fell back in love with space. I fell back in love with Florida because I was so ready to get out of Florida. I just thought it was the worst place in the world. And I just fell back in love with everything that was around me, like right here in my hometown. And the 10 weeks was up, and then they offered me a job. They offered me a permanent job, which I was like, you lied to me. You said that there was no job. But, you know, I worked so hard when I was there. Like, you want to be so proud of, like, the things that you create and you put out to people. And, like, that was recognized. And so it's like when that 10 weeks is up, it's like they were right. A job didn't exist when I started. But by the end, they made one because they didn't want me to go anywhere. So then I was like, well, I had a plan, and that plan is changing. And so that led to a permanent job, and I took the job. And it was that same mindset of like, well, if I don't like it, California will always be there. I can always still go. I can always change my mind. I'm not stuck. I can do whatever I want. So I took it, and I was like, oh, I'll probably work here like a year or two. Again, build that resume, and then move on. And then when I got the job, they were like, hey, so this is a federal contract, so for you to work here, you have to have a 4-year degree. Like, you can't work here without a bachelor's degree. So again, my plan completely changed, and I was forced to go to college. But then at the time, you know, it was a great company, so like they helped pay for it. And so I got to go to film school. Like I went to Full Sail, which without their help, I would not have been able to afford to go there. It's a private school, and I convinced them that for me to do my job better for them, I needed a digital cinematography degree, and I got that film degree that I wanted. And I ended up staying at that job for about 4.5 years. I was there. So, and everything changed, you know, and during those 4.5 years, my entire dream changed. And I wanted to stay in Florida. Nothing could make me leave after that. I wanted to stay in the space industry. Nothing could make me leave. I had zero interest in ever going to Hollywood. Like, it was just not the world I wanted anymore because I just had fallen in love with the space industry. And but after 4.5 years, and I started to feel a bit stagnant in that job. It wasn't the most creative job in the world. Like it was training videos, and you do what you can. I tried to have a lot of fun with some of those projects, but there's only so much you can do when you do how to remove and replace a klystron on a radar. So I wanted more creativity, but I didn't really know how to get that. And then Launch Services Program happened. And, like what happened with me getting my initial internship, like I had that moment of networking. It was because of my high school theater teacher. If it wasn't for her, wouldn't have even known about it, and I might not have even gotten it, even if I did know about it. So I had another really good moment of networking when it came for the Launch Services Program. Right around that time that I was like ready for something new, a former coworker that I had worked with at Patrick reached out to me and was like, hey, I work on this contract for NASA's Launch Services Program. They just opened up this job position. I really think you should apply for it. Like, I was so impressed by the work that you did. Keep in mind, I worked for this man, like, I worked with this guy for like 6 months. Like, he was not at the company long. I felt like he was in and out, but like, I impressed the right person at the right time, and he remembered me. So when it came time that this job opened, I had no idea this job existed, and he reached out to me and was like, you need to apply for this. So I applied for that job, and I remember opening up the job description and looking at it and reading it, and I went, why did he send me this? I don't fit a single bullet point on this job description. Nothing. Not my degree, not any of my background. It was a marketing position, but it was all about like statistics and analytics and these programs that you needed to know. And I was like, I don't have any of that. But this guy had gone so far out of his way for me that I applied out of courtesy to him. And when I got called for the interview, I knew. I was like, oh, they're interviewing me out of a courtesy to this guy because they know I don't fit either. And I went to the interview full well knowing I don't want this job. It doesn't sound exciting. This isn't what I want to do. This isn't what I wanted. So I went in knowing I'll be nice. This is good interview experience, but I'm going to turn this job down if for some crazy reason they offer it to me. And then I had a 4-hour interview. And I went through 3 different levels of sets of people. I started with the contract people with AI Solutions, which was 2 bosses there. Then I got moved to the program manager of that contract, and then I got moved to the NASA managers. And I went through all those people. It took about 4 hours. And by the end, everything had changed. And I wanted this job so bad because I spent that entire interview going, this description, this is not me. I don't fit any of this. I can't do any of that for you. But here's what I can do for you. And I showed them all my work, my reels, the graphics I've made, the videos I've done, presentations I've done. And I went and did all of that. And at the very end, again, I was like, I can't give you what you're saying you're looking for. But here are all the things that I can offer you. And I completely changed their mind in that interview. They thought they knew what they wanted, and they didn't, and I showed them that. And I got the job, and that's the job I have now, and I absolutely love it. It's an absolute dream. LSP has the best culture I've ever been a part of in a job. I'm involved in these missions and launches. Like she said, we do social media, we do launch day campaigns. I have so much creative freedom in the work that I do. I do video production, graphic design, and it's just, I can't even imagine doing anything else. I absolutely love it. All right. Thank you, guys. And I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you so much, guys, for sharing your bios and inspirational stories and career paths. We really appreciate it. So this next portion of the conversation will be really to hear from you guys and what questions you may have for Jared, Chris, and Peyton. And I will be happy to move my microphone around, so if you want to raise your hand, we can open it up to discussion. Oh, or I can use this. Actually, I'll use my own microphone. You guys can. Okay, thank you. That would work. Thank you. Any questions? What are you guys thinking? What do you want to know? Yes, and then.
I just want to say thank you. This is really cool because I definitely relate to applying to something and you didn't think, oh, I could get it, and you've gotten it. I'm interested in social media, so I think with Peyton and Chris, I would want to know what is sort of the day-to-day stuff that you guys do related to like marketing and social media.
On? Okay. So we do kind of daily posts, and actually we had a meeting today about we kind of plan it out and like look at calendars and see what things are going on besides what's going on with LSP. So we have a kind of it's a Google Doc of like whatever our tweet is going to be on our Facebook post. But I say the biggest thing that we do is the day of launch, and we start up about 2 hours before launch. But we do get all of that ready weeks before the launch. We're not like on the fly posting because we post about every 5 to 10 minutes. But we get that all ready, what we can, and we're just going along with the flow. But we get to sit on console and we're listening. We're listening to Tim and his. He goes through all the engineers and they give their go, no go. So we listen for things like that. And then we can tweet about that, put that tweet out there. We have to wait and listen for weather, things like that. So we have a lot of it done, which makes it so much easier and ready to go. And we were just talking about this today. Like, you have to multitask a lot and be able to like listen to things and plus, like, I feel like our knowledge of LSP and like knowing what things mean and thankfully, our past like 5 launches, have been very smooth countdowns. So we haven't nothing's happened where we've got to like all of a sudden change things up. So we've been very lucky with that, but it's a really exciting thing to do, especially at the day of launch. It's a lot of fun to do, but definitely being prepared for those kind of things and having as much ready. So we're just like cutting and pasting into Twitter and getting that in there. But I know, and you did like social media with your other job. Like I just did my own Twitter thing, but I think especially now, like that's the way you get your message out. And I don't know how many followers we have on our LSP account, but hopefully you guys, if you're on Facebook or Twitter, you now will follow our accounts. And we always post our pictures on day of launch, so you'll see pictures of us next to our mission posters. So, but I feel like just being as prepared as possible, what you're doing, and then just kind of know your audience. We have, and obviously with NASA, we can't get too crazy. We have to watch what we're posting. But we have a little bit of creativity in there, but it's been I'm really glad I'm on the team. It's like a really fun thing to do. Very, very cool. So I don't know if you have anything else to offer.
I just wanted to add a little bit to what she said about like how being NASA, you do have to be careful about what you put out. And so, I don't know how many of you guys have Twitter. If you've ever seen the Wendy's Twitter account, they can do whatever they want. We can't do that. And so, that's why, a lot of places, they just have a social media person, and that one person just does everything and they can post whatever they want. We don't have that. We have a like a 5-person team, and things have to go through those reviews, and that's why it's so important that we write everything ahead of time and prepare it, because if something is just slightly worded wrong and could be slightly interpreted wrong, it could cause problems. And so we have to be very careful. And then, but yeah, the day of launch is just the absolute best. It's chaos, but you've prepared and planned so well that it's just a ton of fun. But it's not any of our main job. So we're all just kind of like, it's a side thing that we have in addition to our main jobs, but we all find the time for it because I think we all love it so much. But yeah.
Great, awesome. I felt like there was a hand here. Yeah, and then, thank you.
Well, thank you all. It's an understatement, doing what you're doing and sharing those stories and give us insight to it all, because I think a lot of it's just, speculation. I wonder what people do and everything, so, this really helps. But also, 2 quick questions. They might seem cheeky, but they're genuine. One, is there any insight to get NASA more funding? More cheeky than anything. And the second one is, you mentioned, working with some companies, SpaceX in particular, on the business side of things, it doesn't seem to be like a financial lacking. So what's the, if any, constant delays with like trying to get chips out for the Raptor engine, or is that something y'all keep touch on?
Those are all things that I personally don't have a dang clue about.
I feel like are you talking about the delays, like with commercial crew? Is that what you're talking about with SpaceX, or just in general?
Right. They keep on trying to get the launches out, and there keep on being delays and approvals. And I don't know how much that interfaces with the business side of if there's anything approval or anything, or if that's just more on the regulation side.
I think it is more like regulations. And I mean, I know like we do some work, and you guys need to pipe in because you guys know more.
You would know the answers
Yes.
to this question.
Yes.
I would just say, ask the question this way. Are you talking delays to the Raptor engine for Starship out of Boca Chica?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
They're still in development. They're still working through a lot of things. So some of the delays have to do with engineering and work that's going on with Boca Chica that way from SpaceX. And it's just part of Elon's business plan to eventually get Starship out there. So it's just a natural part of engineering design, process modifications. There's nothing really bad there. It's just they're learning from what they learned on Falcon 9 full thrust. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I mean, I think we forget, like, SpaceX is so out there, and we forget, like, it's taken companies a really long time to get to where they are, and it's taken NASA, since the 50s to get where we are with, technology and things like that. So, yeah. Anyone else?
I know there was, yeah.
Hi guys, I just want to say I appreciate you all for coming out here today to talk to us about the business side and the different sides of NASA. My name is Tamari and I'm a marketing major. I'm a first year student. And originally my plan was to major in astrobiology, but I looked into it and I saw like how competitive it was, and so I switched to marketing. I don't know how I did that, but I really appreciate knowing that like there are marketing jobs out there for like people who are still interested in NASA and like astronomy. Also, my question was, far as like the marketing jobs and like with the business realm, is LSP the only like area where like there are non-STEM majors or STEM like jobs?
It's all of NASA and any NASA center. Like if you've applied for the internships, you can, it's not just Kennedy Space Center, and it's not just LSP.
Sorry, real quick.
because like on the social media side, so like I said, like we have a team of like 5 people. That's just for LSP, and LSP is just one of, I don't even know how many programs NASA has. It's insane. But once a week we have something called the Digital Weekly Call. This is all the programs of NASA come together for like an hour-long social media call so that everybody's on the same page. And also that way, like, hey, if LSP has a launch coming up, we can be like, hey, headquarters or Goddard, like, do you want to, amplify our posts or something? So like we all try to work together. There's like, what, 80 people on that call? 80 to 100. And that is just social media. And there's 80 people for like across the programs for that. And I don't even think everybody's on that call. No. So there are so many opportunities for that across all the programs.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off what she said, so for education and outreach, I'm the education outreach, and Chris and I actually are education outreach together for LSP, so for the Launch Services Program. Commercial Crew has education outreach. Marshall has education and outreach. And so really across the centers. And one of the things with regards to pathways, which is really unique, is there are some internships where you actually can start off at Kennedy Space Center and then the following summer go to a different center. And so they have multi-center internships. So now you're getting to interact with other people at other centers, maybe doing a slightly different job, getting a little bit different experience. But just to further affirm and encourage you in that, it's really agency-wide. They need people who are in the business office or in public affairs or in education or maybe in strategic planning. So every single program has those things.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Great question.
Any other questions? Yeah.
So I know we have a lot of non-government programs. So we have Blue Origin, we have SpaceX that use NASA establishments. Obviously, I assume there's a financial benefit to give NASA some funding for maybe some of the government holdbacks or budgeting things. What does the future look like as we get more privatized with space exploration? I mean, there's always a fear of like they're not regulated versus NASA has safety, but they also have restrictions with budgeting. And I know you guys may not know a lot about that, but you may know about like the business side of them renting our launch pads or yours or things like that. Are you guys excited for that, or are you a little nervous, I guess?
I guess I'll start from my point of things. So I think within the space industry, you celebrate the success period of where it comes from in the industry, whether it comes from SpaceX, whether it comes from Blue Origin, whether it comes from United Launch Alliance. And so, you look at what SpaceX and Elon Musk is doing. He's completely changed the game, right? You've got a booster now that can fly itself down to the ground and land straight up and down, and then they go take it, refurbish it, and can fly it up to 10 times, right? That's insane. So what has that done? Is it now just make everything about SpaceX? No, what it's done is it's changed the game for everybody. So now everybody else is having to do that. It also has driven the cost down for rockets down substantially. And so that's a great thing for the industry. And then if you look at the Launch Services Program as a whole, what do? We take a spacecraft and we pair it with a commercial launch vehicle provider. We want them to do well. We're relying on their service to get us to our destination. So for us, it's a great thing, I think. And I know there's different sides of it, and obviously you can get into some other things, but from those two standpoints, I would say, me personally, I think it's a good thing for us and it's a good thing for the industry. I don't know if you guys have something to add.
Well, and there's a whole new crop of new rockets that are smaller and cheaper, and we Launch Services Program now are working with those smaller companies, but up and coming. Didn't they add? I think they added like 12 companies to the VCLS contract. So it's exciting, like all these new companies coming up, and it's not easy. They're going to have some failures, but that's how you get better. But it's and it makes it able for smaller payloads. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard of CubeSats that are like smaller payload or smaller satellites that are built by college students or high school students or in some cases elementary school students, that's helping them get their satellites into space too. So I feel like it's broadening up like space for so many more people.
Awesome, thank you. One question here.
Is there a certain amount of applicants that are accepted to this internship, or does it depend on the non-STEM major, or do you accept as many people as you want?
So as far as applicants, anyone can apply. There's only certain positions, and usually on the job postings, it'll tell you there's this many positions at this many different centers. It'll say maybe 2 at KSC or 1 at Goddard. And so I don't think I hit on this earlier, but usually with Pathways, they will post theirs 2 to 3 times a year. They just did the one for summer. Unfortunately, that has already opened and closed, and usually it's around January to February. This year it fell around the first week of February, and it's really great. So you can look on usajobs.gov, and that's where they get posted, and it's NASA Pathways. But to get you more directly to that particular site to find out information, you can go to intern.nasa.gov. So intern.nasa.gov, and it has information about OSTEM, and it also has information about Pathways, and they keep that up to date. And so I would go there and kind of keep looking, but they have tons of different jobs, and it'll tell you this is a public affairs job, this is an education outreach job, this is a business analyst job, this is like, it goes through and it'll tell you how many different positions they have. Now, if you apply, are you going to get it? I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. It's competitive, right? It's very competitive, and I think you guys understand that, and you guys want things to be competitive and want to know that you were, the candidate they selected. But yeah, it's a competitive thing, and I would tell you, if it's something you want to do, Chris said it earlier, like, go do it. Like, put yourself out there. Don't let there be an opportunity that's too small and you're like, it's not exactly what I want, because I can tell you there are people that I know and work with who did Pathways, and they applied more than 3 times, and they were told no 3 or more times, but they were like, no, I want to do this. And it's really easy. I mean, I think most of you probably have experienced adversity in your life, and you can either let it define you or you can let it strengthen you. And so I would encourage you, if you want to work for NASA, don't let the obstacle define you. Instead, let it grow you. What are you going to do if they tell you no? How are you going to come back the next time around when Pathways opens up a position and you're like, look what else I have here to sell myself. This is another opportunity I went and took advantage of. This is another volunteer experience I took advantage of. And I think one of the things that really will distinguish you, this is kind of off topic from what you're talking about, but it doesn't have to be necessarily job related. I think a lot of times, and maybe Mick and Tim could speak to this, but when they see that you are well-rounded, that you're not just great at business or marketing and you just have experiences there, but you have experiences in a lot of other things, like, wow, this person's not just great at this, but they're good at this as well, and they're well-rounded, and I would really like to have someone like that on my team. So that's just an encouragement to you.
Sorry, that just made me think of something. This has nothing to do with the question anybody asked, but it just reminded me of something, and I feel like this is a bit of advice I want to share. When I was first kind of applying for jobs, so I was a waitress, right? And I had all my freelance work that I was doing, which was great. And I remember somebody telling me to leave off my high school accomplishments from my resume, because I was too old to have that on there, and that my waitressing job was irrelevant and should not be added to my resume. I did not listen to that person, and I put it all on there because I was like, I want to talk about it. I learned so much from both those things, but it was like, yeah, does my waitressing job have anything to do with making training videos on an Air Force base? No, but I put it on there, and I made sure to talk about it in my interview and talk about how much I learned with dealing with difficult customers, teamwork, multitasking, all the things that you can learn from those jobs that maybe other people can look at and be like, well, that's irrelevant. And I remember talking to my boss, way down the line, and he told me that he was like, we had so many other applicants, and he's like, but one of the main reasons I hired you was just was the waitressing, the way that you talked about it, how long that you had worked at the same restaurant for 4 years, like, it was such a key part in me getting that first internship. Had I never put it on there, had I never talked about it, wouldn't have gotten the internship, wouldn't have gotten the job, wouldn't be here. So it's every little thing that you do, no matter how small somebody else might think it is, put it on there. Like, it's gonna mean something to somebody. And if it doesn't mean something, well, they're just gonna skip right over it. There's no harm in putting it on there. So, okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, that's a great question. So Katie is asking about the quick turnaround time with regards to the jobs posted on USA Jobs. Pathways jobs are posted for 1 week. And so it's quick. You've got to be ready. You've got to be watching. I think the other time that they posted, I want to say it's sometime in the fall, getting ready for the spring internships, but it is open for 1 week, usually 5 days, one business week. And so pay attention, look for it. And that's something that, we've got some people who work with Pathways and actually have done some information sessions prior to that. And that's something we could talk with Katie as well about. But yeah, be ready for them. And if you're graduating and going to grad school, one of the things that I will just tell you, you have to be in the program when the window closes. So that's another one of those caveats you got to know and make sure that you're actually enrolled in the program when it closes, not getting into a program after the window closes.
I'll just add, and that goes for just NASA jobs too. I would say go to the USA Jobs, like right now, create an account, upload a resume, get all that ready, and get notifications for either internships or just regular jobs, or if it's a specific place, like do that now. Because even a regular NASA job, they're only open for like 3 or 4 days. It's really quick. But I feel like it makes it a lot easier for you to, and keeping, my one thing too was keeping your resume updated so that when that comes up that, you're ready to go. But I would definitely get an account, create an account and get all that ready and be on the lookout for those kind of things.
And we can help you with the resumes at the Career Center. Sorry. Any other questions? Yeah.
My question relates to being from a non-STEM background in a more STEM arena. How did you approach learning the scientific parts of NASA when you needed to communicate those for your job and you had a different type of background?
Well, so one good thing for me when I was in these big decisional meetings, and it was all about certifying the Falcon 9, or we had meetings about different missions. And with LSP, we have a lot of things that you can go to and just listen to and hear what other people are doing. And there's not a person on our program that wouldn't, if I came up to them and I said, can you help explain this mission or this or that or what's going on, anyone will stop and take the time to do that. But I really feel like it's just like being involved in a lot of different things on the program and just going to anything going on that you can hear about what the missions are doing. I feel like I have to do a lot of research on missions and read stuff, and I have to be able to talk about it in a very non-science way to tell, because when I first started doing outreach for LSP, and one thing that Peyton said, like when the shuttle ended and things were quiet, no, LSP was launching, but no one ever knew that we were. And probably like 4 years ago when I first started doing outreach, and people would be like, oh, I heard Kennedy Space Center was shut down. And I'm like, no, we're still launching. I was trying not to be like, do you see those rockets? And everyone thinks about the rocket, not what's inside. I said, the rockets aren't just going up for nothing. There's a satellite in there doing, on its way somewhere. So, it's just, doing your own research, but just listening to anyone, anything that you can do that helps explain what's going on.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah.
So first of all, I'd really like to thank you guys for coming to talk to us today. Really have enjoyed hearing your backgrounds. I hear that there are a couple of launch directors in LSP, and which might be your favorite launch director? No, you don't have to answer that. I don't want to hurt any feelings. But I do have a question for Chris. Chris, you mentioned culture in an organization, and you highlighted that LSP seems to have an exceptional culture. How important do you think that is in a workplace, and how would you tie that into kind of the current environment where organizations have been teleworking a lot, and is culture, will it be as important going forward as it has been in the past?
Well, yes, culture is very important. I feel like that's a key component to making you successful and your employees happy. And there is something special about LSP, and I can't really put my finger, like there's nothing I can say for sure, like this is what makes it great, because it's a lot of different things. But something that I just mentioned, like I can work with Tim, like I can ask him, like, can you help me go over all these upcoming launches? He will take time. He's busy. He will take time and go through things with me. And like I said, anyone will. And I do feel like, I know it's been hard teleworking, and both of these people, you know, they've only known teleworking with LSP. But I still feel like it comes through, even doing things on Teams. It still comes through. And we're lucky. We've launched all through this pandemic, starting with March 2020. And it was a smaller group of people that got to come back to work. I mean, and we're still working from home. So, but we've been consistently launching since 2020. And those launch campaigns, and you know, certain people have to come in and do their work, and I feel like those kind of things have helped. You know, especially anyone new that's come in and has to be a part of the launch campaign, they get to see that. Also, when we travel to Vandenberg, most people stay in the same hotel, and we always hang out together outside of work. And, you know, it's because people want to be around each other. I mean, some of my best friends, I work with them, and I'm grateful for that. It makes your life like a lot easier. And I feel like when you're choosing a school, like it's the culture. Like when you walk on the campus and you're like, this is where I'm supposed to be. Like that's how you know, that's probably how you chose, or a big decision in choosing this school. You know, you can feel like that if you go to an interview. Like Peyton was saying, like at the end of this interview, she was like, oh no, I want this job. You know, like you know it, and it's that culture seeping through, and you know, letting you know, hey, you know, you are welcome here. You know, like this is your place. You know, so thank you. That was a good question, Tim.
And I want to add to it, because I did get brought on during telework. So I was placed with LSP. I didn't choose LSP as part of the pathways. They said, this is where you're going. And when that happened, one, I had lived across from the Kennedy Space Center my whole life, never heard of LSP. I said, LS what? And everyone said, you hit the jackpot. I was like, okay, I've heard that a bunch. Every single person, like, that place is awesome. And this is what they told me about it. They said they take care of their own. Like, they take care of their people. And they work hard, but they really take care of each other, and they enjoy each other. And so even though I got brought on during telework, like she said, I experienced that family feel, because there wasn't one person who was like, nope, don't know who you are, never seen your name on an email before, don't talk to me. there were always people with open arms. I mean, it was like drinking from a fire hose, kind of what you were talking about, trying to figure out all the scientific things. One of the things that's even more difficult than that is NASA's acronyms. I still don't know half of them. It's crazy. It's another language. And so, but there were people who were just so willing. And I always think this is true, that everything rises and falls on leadership. And I would say that our leadership is phenomenal. I don't know if I've worked for better leaders. And that goes from our program manager, our deputy program manager, our division leads, people like Tim Dunn and Mick Woltman. For me, I've gotten to do a lot of stuff with them, and they're great mentors. And like she said, they're busy, but they take time to invest in you, and that's important. I think that's why the culture is the way it is.
I mean, everything that they said, yes, absolutely true. I mean, LSP is like the best place I've ever worked, will probably be the best place I will ever work. And at my previous job, it was a government contract, and I just remember how inefficient it was, how there was no want or need to improve or be better. And nobody seemed to really care about like the mission at hand, or like the purpose of what our contract was there for. And it was like a disease that like spread through the employees, and it was really unfortunate. I remember talking to a couple people about it, and everybody just gave me the same answer. It was just like, well, it's a government contract. That's just how it is. And I was like, oh, well, that sucks, but okay. And like I was at that job for a very long time, and I believed them. And then I came to LSP, and like they are liars. That is not true. It's not just government contracts. It was just that company. It was just that one contract. LSP, like the care that every single person in this program has for not just the people around them, but for the mission itself and the job. Like everyone is excited to be at work every day. People care about what they're doing. They care about they want everybody to improve. Everybody's so willing to help. And there is just also this like constant push to be better and to improve and be more efficient. And that is, it was quite a culture shock actually coming here. And it just truly took my breath away, because it's like, this is how it should be. And I would say no matter where you work or where you end up or what job you have, I feel like that's something to like always keep in the back of your mind, is like, if it's not like that, something's wrong. Like it should feel that good. You should love where you are. So yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions for the panelists? Thank you. Here you go.
Okay, as an international student, is it still, can I still apply for an internship, or is it like restricted to only like US residents and stuff?
So unfortunately, those two that I mentioned, OSTEM and Pathways, you have to be a U.S. citizen to apply for those. As far as other opportunities, I'm not aware of them. And so I wouldn't let that discourage you. I would still be involved in those things that you're passionate about and chase those things, and who knows what happens down the line.
I would say that's probably going to be a hard requirement on most like government contracts, is to be a U.S. citizen. But I would say you might have a little bit more luck and flexibility when it comes to like the commercial providers, because it's not government. So things like SpaceX and ULA and that, like, I feel like that you just might have a little bit better luck looking, if you like want to be in the space industry, looking on more like the commercial side rather than like the government side.
And I want to say too, because Peyton and I, we actually work for a company called AI Solutions, and we're government contractors. So, and there's a ton of government contractors. Go look at those websites too. And like AI Solutions, we have internships also that work with LSP, but AI Solutions has contracts all over the United States. and all kinds of different, like she was saying, ULA, I know they have internships, and it's the same kind of thing. It's like you got to apply for it, comes out, it's like a certain time every year, it's quick, get your resume in. But there's, a ton of different contractors that you would still be, we're still working, the thing with LSP too is like, yes, we're a contractor, but we are not treated any different. We have what is called like a badgeless society. It doesn't matter if you have, if you're AI Solutions or NASA, we're all one team. So I want to, I know this is kind of all about NASA, but don't think that that's the only way that you can get to work at Kennedy Space Center or for LSP or for if you want to work at Johnson Space Center, anything like that. So look at those opportunities also. And most of those companies, they have internships too, or a lot of entry-level positions. So yeah, if you needed a list, I could make up a list for you and send it to you. And,
That would be great.
and yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
What other questions are there for the group? Do you have one?
Sorry to ask again. You guys are talking about culture and how happy you are there. So my question would be for internships. Obviously, it's a foot in the door, but once you get offered maybe a permanent or a position at NASA as a paid intern or not, but like a job, what do you feel about the retainability? Do you guys have people who are their career? Because that seems to be a global change. Nobody has these long-term careers anymore. They kind of change over a bunch.
Well, I will say with LSP, we have a lot of people that started in the very beginning of the program, 1998, that are still around. And I mean, I know a lot of it has to do with just LSP and our culture, and people want to stay there. But I think things have obviously changed now with like working from home and people being remote, and I feel like sometimes people can, there's a lot more, I think we lost some people because of COVID and like remote or working from home, things like that. But I still feel like a lot of people stay in it. And if it's something that you're passionate about, like if you love space and, this is where you want to work and this is interesting to you, people stay along for a long time, I mean, I've worked at Kennedy Space Center like my whole working career. I worked at Publix and I worked at Kennedy Space Center. And I worked on different contracts, but it was, it's a great place to work. And I think, if that's your thing and you'll stay. And maybe your job, you don't love it, there's other opportunities too. So I do think people stay. They might move around a little bit, but they're still like in the industry. I don't know if you guys have anything to add.
Yeah, and on the NASA side, I would say there's a lot of people that have been there their whole career. And I think just kind of like she said, there are tons of opportunities within NASA. So I think that's one of the cool things about the agency as a whole is I do education and outreach now. And there may be a job that I could do in the future that I may not have been qualified to apply for just from being a U.S. citizen, not working with NASA. But now that I have my foot in the door, I could go work at Goddard, I could go work at Johnson, I could go work at a bunch of different NASA centers and do a job that's different. I mean, the girl who had the job before me, she's now in a different role, still with NASA, still with LSP, but she's now moved on to a different role. And so that's one of the cool things about working for NASA. And I'd say from the federal government side, there's a lot of people that have been there for a very long time as well.
Yeah, kind of on that, like I feel like a lot of people do kind of like shift roles within either the program or within NASA itself. Like I remember kind of coming into this job and I was a little nervous or hesitant just because like I said, I didn't fit that description of that job, so I really going into it didn't know exactly what I was going to be doing or if I was going to love it once I got here. But once I got here, loved it. But I kind of thought about like, where does this lead? Like, is this my job, or like, does this lead to something else? Like, what's that like progression that's possible for me? And in the past 2 years, some of the things that I've like looked at and people I've worked with is like, there's a whole broadcast side to NASA, right? NASA TV. And that's something that, like, right with my background, that's something I'm extremely interested in. And so it's like, that's something that's always kind of like on my radar. But like as LSP, we work with them. So it's something, they're not part of our program, but it's one of those things where it's like, way down the line, if that was something that happened for me and I moved over to broadcast, it's like I'd still be in NASA. I'd still get to work with the Launch Services Program, but I'd also get to work with a ton more other people. So it's like I forgot which one you said it, but like even just kind of joining, it's like the amount of other opportunities that all of a sudden kind of open up and that you learn about is incredible. So I would say it's probably one of the biggest reasons people leave or shift. I don't think it's really ever because they're unhappy.
It's just, more opportunities come up for them.
Yeah.
Do we have time for any more questions? Jared, what do you think? Maybe one more? Or what do you guys think? Do you have any other questions you want to ask our panelists today?
I'll do a closing.
Well, first of all, I want to tell all of you thank you for coming. And I think it's awesome that you guys are here at the University of Tennessee. You're in college. It's an exciting time of your lives. I'm sure there's a lot of challenging things. I'm sure school is challenging. But you're our future. You are the future of NASA. You are the future of this country. And so what you're doing right now matters. What you're studying matters. Who you're becoming probably matters even more. So thank you guys for investing in yourself today. And I know that it's something that's going to pay dividends. And I'm excited to see you all take our spots because you are the future. So thank you guys for letting us be a part of what's already happening here.
Thank you so much to our panelists. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. Appreciate your time. If you guys wouldn't mind, if you haven't signed in for this event today, we have QR codes around. Feel free to grab also swag from NASA. And if you wouldn't mind taking a quick survey about the panel today, we would truly appreciate it. And I will make sure to share those responses with you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.